Hello and welcome to Medcity's secret mantra to OET. And today in this video, we will discuss how do you end your letter writing. So this is all about OET writing, and we know as a healthcare practitioner, your task requirement is to write a letter. So you have a case note given to you. It's details of a patient, and going through the case note, looking at the task, you need to address the letter to a particular recipient, pick relevant information, transform it into proper sentences, and write a letter to your reader. Now once you've done that, the next question is, how do you end a letter? So that is what I'm going to show you in this particular video. Now you might be wondering, what is there a lot to speak about? How to end a letter? Well, definitely there is, because you need to know that there are various ways in which you can end a letter. And in OET writing, you have to write a formal letter. So keeping this context in mind, let's see what are the ways. So there are two ways of a formal ending for a letter. So if you can end a formal letter in two different ways, what are they? Well, the first method of ending your letter is by using the words "yours sincerely." And the second way to end your letter is by using the words "yours faithfully." Why are there two different ways to end a formal letter? That's what we will discuss in this particular video in detail. How and when do we use these? Now we know there are two ways of ending. One is using the words or the phrase "yours sincerely" and the other "yours faithfully." Is there really a difference between the two? Or can I switch between these two as and when, or depending on my desire on that day? Like I decide to choose "yours sincerely," I simply write it as "yours sincerely." Is that the case? Or do these ways of ending a letter have a meaning or a purpose? Well, it does. Let's look at an example. Now this is not a complete letter, but it's a first half of a letter. Now we know certain things that are important things to be included in a letter, basically what we call as a format of a letter. So in this particular sample that you see on the board, I've begun with the date, and this is a person I'm writing to. It is Miss Sylvia Dine, and then her address. So this is my reader, and this is my reader's address. So she is the head nurse at Max Care Center. So I know the name of my reader, and I also know her job title, right? So this is the job title, and I began the address with her name. So you can see this part is what we call as the salutation. This is addressing the reader. So how did I begin? It's polite, and one of the best ways to start your letter is by using the word "dear." And because I clearly know who my recipient is, I mention her name. So "Dear Miss Sylvia Dine." Now you can write the recipient's full name. You could also just use their surname. So you can write it as "Dear Miss Dine," which is also fine. But since in the letter given we have her full name, let us stick to that as our salutation. So "Dear Miss Sylvia Dine." Below the salutation, this is the reference line. Okay. So in the reference line, we mention the patient's name plus the age. It's always advisable to mention the date of birth, but if the date of birth is not given in the case note, but the age is mentioned as a number, we can add that in the reference line. Now this is the purpose paragraph, the first paragraph of your letter. And following that, you have the remaining body paragraphs. Like I began initially, I do not have the entire sample of a letter. This is just a part of it. And this is to tell you how you can decide in what way to end your letter. Should I be using yours sincerely for this letter? Or should I use yours faithfully? How do I know what the right usage is? Well, that completely depends on the salutation. So how have you greeted your reader is what will help you decide whether to begin as yours sincerely or to end your letter using yours faithfully. And because here in the salutation I have used the full name of my recipient, or even if it is the surname of the recipient, I need to end my letter using the phrase yours sincerely. So here I am going to end the letter by using the phrase yours sincerely, and I write my name, and that is if my name is given. If no, so okay, that board does seem to have a problem. So I write my name here. If my name is not given, I write my job title. So I hope you've got the idea. I write yours sincerely when I know the name of my reader. Okay. And I am addressing the letter to that particular person. That's when I end the letter using yours sincerely. So, does that mean I need to end the letter yours faithfully in any other instance? Well, yes, it does. Take a look at the next example. Here, again, I do have the date. So, I begin with the date of writing the letter, and who am I writing the letter to? The admitting doctor. Okay, so I don't have the name, but I have the job title of my reader. So I know who I am writing to. It's the admitting doctor, but I don't know the person with his name, his or her name, and then the address. So this part remains the same. So because I have no idea what the name of the doctor is, my salutation will also read as dear doctor, because I don't know the name of the person I am writing to. Now if you notice, the reference line remains. Now this is a good thing to include in your letter, because quickly the doctor or the person you're writing to has a good idea of who the patient is and the date of birth. Okay, so this is the purpose paragraph, and the paragraphs to follow have the important details that the doctor need to know. And because my salutation began with dear doctor, not the name but the job title, I need to wind up my letter by writing yours faithfully. Okay. Now this case would remain the same even if I write it as dear sir. So instead of doctor, if I write it as dear sir, I need to wind up my letter using yours faithfully. But if I have the name of the doctor and I write it as Dear Dr. Thomas, then I wind up my letter as yours sincerely. Let's have a look at one more example to ensure that you've understood what I've been discussing so far. This is one last example before we wind up today's video. Now here, the date, my reader, I'm writing to Mrs. and Mr. Isho. This is my reader and their address. This is how my salutation goes. I know their names, so I write it as Dear Mrs. and Mr. Isho, and I've given a subject instead of a reference line because I'm writing the letter to the parent or the parents of the child. So the parents or the carer, which is why I've written the subject instead of reference. This is the purpose of the letter and the paragraphs to follow. How do I end this letter? Should I be writing yours sincerely or should I end it as yours faithfully? Well, you've all guessed it right. I have to end it as yours sincerely because I've clearly mentioned their names. So I hope by now you've got a good idea about when and where to use yours sincerely and where to use yours faithfully. So keep this in mind before you go for your exam. So every time you practice an OET letter writing, put these things to practice. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope our videos, which is Secret Mantra, Medcity's Secret Mantra to OET, is really helping a lot of OET aspirants out there. Thank you for showering us with all your love and support, and keep supporting us and subscribe to all our videos. Thank you so much.